Hello guys. Oh my gosh, isn't this just the adventure? My question to myself always when I am stressed out and worried and scared about things is there any new information in this? And then I look at my cards for today and I am not sure. Probably not. So why am I scared? Because I have to talk about it. And just, I think, like everybody else, and like we all agree on, we wear masks, and so do I. We pretend to be strong and to have inner peace and to project some form of control, some form of a sense of humor, and all those things. And behind all that are other layers with other, types of content. So today, I suppose I sort of managed to grab my courage. If you see all sorts of flickering on my face, it's because there's a candle over there. And there's maybe it's reacting to me because I'm talking or because of the content, what I'm talking about. Because, fire magic and candle scrying and all that stuff. I haven't really interacted with the candle flame yet, so because I was busy. Kwanzaa day 2, self-determination. I have to, eavesdrop on my pages here. There were these questions are really amazing. They I suppose it's a job really well done. And this whole thing takes me deeper into territory that I already know. But I also, because I kind of promised at this point only to myself, but to the universe then, to put this stuff online, to put my cards online, to share in the process of Kwanzaa on my own, all by myself here. Because of that, I have to sort of come out with things much more, come out from behind the mask. And that's how it feels. And also I only slept for a couple of hours this night, which is unusual and a bit uncomfortable for me because, well, I had a bit of a migraine and that's all gone now. I am okay, but I am, I feel like I have these huge eyelids, like their eyelids are from here to here, like that. So I'm just going to be poking fun a bit, hopefully, and then we will get to the other end of this without too much drama and what have you. Because the self-determination set, those cards, there's 7 questions. I refer you again to Oh Yes Girl's explanation of all this. It's far better than anything I could come up with, especially since I am really new to Kwanzaa. I also recently heard that it is really a diaspora celebration, which is another reason why it appeals to me, because there are harvest festivals of all sorts and types in Africa, and there are harvest festivals in Holland, in the Netherlands, in Europe also. So that's different. I am also a bit of a diaspora particle that has been, launched out from some type of matrix. And actually, like I said in my previous video, my parents were also, not really part of a matrix of a Mother Earth, motherland situation ever. So there's been a lot of moving house, there's been a lot of migrating, and a lot of fragmentation also as a consequence. So let's get into these cards now, okay? Promise, I'm going to go for the cards. Number 1, the most prominent history I carry within me. The 9 of Swords. I knew it was coming. I knew this was going to come out at some point. This has been my card since I was 16 years old. Back in the day when I had only the what was it? The Golden Dawn Hermetic Tarot in black and white, which I have since chucked in the bin for one reason, because I didn't like his lion faces. I'm a Leo, so I'm entitled to have nice lion faces in there. And especially the Nine of Swords kept coming up again and again. And in hindsight, I think it's funny-ish to the extent that my life was not funny, not at all. And I wish I had splendid tools. I really did. Only it was such a lonely business. And it turns out I don't do lonely very well at all. I have to reevaluate and reinterpret being alone nowadays. And I am not the same person that I was 5 years ago, and everything used to just, come down crashing on top of me, and I had no control over anything ever. And that has been the way things have gone with me and with people always. I was blamed for things. I was terrified. I had no foundation. I didn't have anything to hold on to. I didn't have any inner sense of a core or a center inside myself, which since then, has been that role of the core and the center has been taken over by that part which I investigate in my soul retrieval videos. So it's kind of the thing has kind of resolved itself in terms of how I react to things. I do not necessarily react to things in this way anymore. And this is really very mild Nine of Swords. Am I holding this up right? Yes. It's rather pretty with a pretty face at the top, and there's towers and there's an ocean and all that type of thing. Whereas normally everybody knows about the Nine of Swords is this E card, where the only card that's worse is the Ten of Swords, which is even more E, and you just, yeah. I can deal with the devil and death and all that. Those are cards I find. The Tower, I kind of, managed to sort of organize my way with that. But the 9 and the 10 of Swords, I just find, I know they're just part of the scheme, right? You have to have them. And so, long story short, again. The most prominent history I carry within me is definitely a history of feeling isolated, panicking, and feeling like everything's my fault. This is a guilt card. It's all about I am to blame. I'm also to blame for World War II and the concentration camps and everything. And I wasn't even born in those days. So, yeah, it's nuts. It's the perspective of a 3-year-old that I'm sharing here. So no wonder I had to take off several of my masks in order to get this story on the road here. Next question. Next card, number 2, is the traditional foundations that inform my life. And I get the Page of Swords. And apart from the fact that I'm not so fond of the fact that she doesn't have any arms and no face, I think this is really pretty. This is also very much a self-determination card, which is something I like. Okay, it can be challenging. It will be challenging. There will always be challenges, but this is definitely something I grew up with. Everything was always challenged, and for a 3-year-old girl, it's not so easy. I only wish I had been tougher. But if I had been tougher, I would have even had even more headaches. So my parents were tough, and everybody has headaches as far back into history as you wish to go. So traditional, definitely. Tradition of questioning everything, challenging everything, refusing to ever accept, that's what happened to me. I'm not saying that necessarily what the card means, but refusing to do compromises, refusing to meet in the middle, to, you know, we say in Holland, add water to wine, to sort of water down things ever. Yeah. So I'm very much, I'm a ascendant Libra myself, even though I do have a couple of tougher nuts in my horoscope here and there. I like to be mates with everybody. So I have felt very much alone and crushed by my parents' approach, and also because they were very much alone, each of them, and both of them, I should say. So, which is why they were so dogmatic and or harsh and, you know, all those things, even to their own kid. And because they were harsh to each other, to each of them, I looked as a kid like a smallish representation of that partner that they couldn't live with. And so I triggered the hell out of them, I suppose. So, etc., etc. Number 3, where is it? How do I primarily define myself? This is where I got like, I have no clue what this means. How do I'm assuming there's an I inside here, and that's I is supposed to define itself. So this is really, this is where it gets gritty, okay? And same as last time, in the 3rd position, there's the moon again. Which kind of makes sense, because, as I said in the other episode, I should say, I'm also an astrologer. My moon is in Aries. So I tend to really jump to conclusions. Yeah. I tend to assume that my first impression is the only reality. I'm a very much an, I think in absolutes, I think in black and white. It's always got to be either one or the other, either my mum or my dad, which is what my natal horoscope gives me, okay? This moon. There's another side to the moon. There's the black moon. My black moon, my lunar apogee, is in Pisces, and which is much more forgiving and tends to want to take on the sorrows of the world. And one part of my big 9 of Swords, big deal, was that my black moon aspected a lot of other things in my own chart as well as in my parents' charts. Especially it aspected their black moons. And whole story, long story short, there's lots of videos on my channel about this stuff. But I think bottom line is it made me extra sensitive, extra vulnerable to what it is that they couldn't give. I was supposed to be isolated. That's all I can say. However, it is all over now. It's changing big time. First because of the soul retrieval, and then in 2018 because Uranus moved over to Taurus, over the position where it was in my parents' charts. And there's a lot of stuff going on there, which makes for me too that all of 2018 really I spent reevaluating mentally as well as emotionally what has been given to me by my parents. And also I have learned finally, sort of, to accept the fact that I am a child of both of them. And to some extent, to the extent that I have inherited good things as well, good qualities and talent and all that type of stuff. I have also, I can feel compassion for both of them nowadays, which is something I have been working on to do, because that's what really comes naturally to me once my soul retrieval had, happened. So if you're interested in soul retrieval experiences, feel free to visit, because I think that's still the most important thing I've ever have to share. So the card number 4 is my inner authentic name. And I get another 9 because I had a 9 yesterday, and there's a 9 of swords here, and here's the 9 of cups, which is a bit of a goofy card, but it's also very hopeful and kind of generous and mystical. And there's all this kind of an understanding because I kind of give up understanding because of surrender of some type or other, which makes me go, oh, thank God. At least, there is a way. There's always a way. But I have to kind of give up on the heritage things with all the swords and all that. So just kind of step away from the swords. So that's a cool card. I've always liked this 9 of Cup cards with this monkey, ape, baboon type character. How I create for myself. How do I create for myself? Card number 5. High Priestess? Really? Huh. If you say so. Creativity is very important to me, and it's a part of almost everything I do, which I think is completely natural. And to me, that's like, how could you not? But maybe I'm supposed to value that a bit more, which I will forget in the next 5 minutes, because it's just, the High Priestess doesn't value her work, I hope. I mean, she's too busy, okay? She's busy making stuff, cooking and weaving and getting stuff organized. So, but that's a really nice card to get, and it's a bit of it goes beautifully, of course, with the Moon card and even with the 9 of Cups. And so, again, these spreads, my God, they're like, what's happening here? And I must also say, I keep using the Marielle because I know this deck best, really. I have a very close connection with this deck, and even though they're a bit scary sometimes, these cards, and there's, male parts and female parts in view and all that, I personally am at an age where I can live with male and female parts, and also I think I take this rather seriously, as you have by now figured out. I want to have a consistency within my Kwanzaa. The whole operation should be in the same deck, and I want to have this ease of interpretation. But you can, of course, if you want to shift decks around, that's fine also. I am very comfortable with my Marielle. So, and since I am uncomfortable with questions, I should have, get a bit of comfort to come my way. The next card, number 6, is how I speak for myself. Now, since I am a yappity yapper, always, and always have been, I was really interested in this card. And here it is. It's the 3 of Cups. So it goes really well with the 9 of Cups, doesn't it? And it goes well with the Moon and with all the others because, water and emotion. And it goes well with my Ascendant Libra. Because what we do as Ascendant Libra, as my husband's one as well, is, blah, 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 blah. But on the other hand, la, 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 la. So and so and so. However, there's also the other. So there's always this thesis, antithesis, synthesis thing going on. And that can be exhausting to many people, I think. You have to sort of be willing to swim with me in the waters of whatever just comes, happens to be firing in my synapses or whatever it is. And then you can have fun. I'm having fun. To me, this is a lot of fun. There is always, what I see in this 3 of Cups card here is that there is always more going on. There's this, there's one perspective, there's the other guy's perspective, and there's always a third perspective. So you can always step beyond whatever is locking up my brain in the 9 of Swords situation, whatever is trying to, get my brain to freeze over or my heart to freeze in fear or whatever. I need a lot of water to get rid of that and to come out of that. So I think it's a perfect card, really, for that. So the last one, where is my question? Because I wrote them all down. My highest aspiration. And I get the Six of Discs, the Six of Pentacles. Now this one I really had to read up, both in the Mary L. companion book and in my other trustee that I always go to, Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom, because I like guidebooks or handbooks that are thorough, and if they're traditional, so be it. Because I'm also part of the last century, so I can, I especially like to take a bit of time to work my way through the symbolism, and in relation to tarot, I have a bit of patience, it seems, to figure out where to go with this card. And I did write it down. There is a couple of items. It has the Six of Discs of Pentacles, has to do with communication as well. So to communicate is absolutely part of my life, and it will always be foremost on my mind, how to express things to the world. But behind that, and that's something that I really sort of distilled from both those handbooks, the Six of Pentacles really has a sense of the coming together of two different layers, of two different atmospheres, and even the welding together of those different atmospheres. Something you can see represented in the classical Rider-Waite version of the Six of Pentacles, where there's one person standing a bit higher up and he's handing out gifts or money or some food to other people who are standing below him. And so there's a whole discussion, especially in Rachel Pollack's book, about giving out that which will be received. So it's not so completely obvious. It's not like generosity as such so much. It's thought out and it's deliberate. And so all those things really appeal to me. I am very much a fan of that inside of me, in my psyche, I have had to weld together these different parts of my consciousness that have gotten separated, which is really the weirdest thing. I mean, this is weirder than Harry Potter, I think. So, I love to read that kind of stuff, of course, because then at least somebody's experiencing shit that's as weird as my own. So welding, amalgamating two metals to become a third identity. That's something I've really been engaged in. But on another level, also being a human who carries around a certain amount of knowledge and experience by now, who has a certain way of looking at things, and then sharing that. And sometimes I really have to make a decision. We all? I am going to share this. I am going to not share this other thing. So to make a distinction between what is profitably shared on the tube, or even I will tell almost everything to my husband, whether he likes it or not. So it's a nice card. I like Pentacles. I'm always a big fan of Pentacles because of all the swords and all the rest of it. It's just so confrontational and antagonistic, and there's always this struggle and the battle, and it just gets in my face. And at some point I want a little bit of peace and quiet, thank you very much. And Pentacles always give me that. So another element that struck me in this search for self-determination really is that there's 9s and 3s and 6s, and there's this whole water element coming in the middle. It's really beautiful. The spread kind of has it's almost like it becomes alive, which I think is really clever. This is so well done. This is so worth it. It's so worth taking the time and the trouble. But I spend an hour each morning now doing my my cards, following Oh Yes Girls, Queen Orset's setup, and I pause the video each time to, you know, select my own card. Sorry. So as to, you know exactly which question I'm supposed to be answering, etc. So I take a lot of time and then I write them out, and I yes, a bit of coughing, it's still in there. My roomie card. Sorry guys, I have to try not to suffocate. The oracle card, she also uses an oracle card, oh yes girl, at the end. And this is mine. I'm supposed to enjoy myself doing what I'm doing. Which is like, all these cards are sort of kind of compensating for the Nine of Swords at the beginning. The universe is still trying to look out for me and have my back. She has my back, whether I know it or not. And apparently I've been programmed to panic about all sorts of things, and then I'm supposed to unlearn that, which I already knew. I was doing that, but I wasn't really putting it on the tube as such in those exact words. I thank you for watching. I hope I don't look too much like a... I'm very white in the face because there's light on here and there's light all over the place, because this is the Netherlands and it's January. It's dark and it's, well, it's not even 3 o'clock in the afternoon yet, but my room is slightly dark and everything's grey. There's a thick cloud cover, and we'll just have our cup of tea, and I've got a candle, and put some music on and go on unboxing, because I've got unboxing to do, which I might share later once, because you know, piles and stuff. But I've got cool decks. I'll show the decks at some point soon enough, promise. Thank you. Bye. Bye for now.